And then He cleans her. And He dresses her. And He works constantly to beautify her. And then after He's made all this investment, He delights in her as an end. That is a great thing. That is a great thing. Now, I want us to look at what Edward Payson says on 51. This is very important because the world will tell you just the opposite. He says, could any of us have seen what angels saw when the Son of God left the bosom of His Father and exchanged a throne in heaven for a manger on earth? Could we have seen Him divesting Himself of His glory, laying aside the form of God, assuming the form of a servant, and appearing on earth in the likeness of sinful flesh, with the avowed purpose of living in poverty and dying, agonizing, accursed death? We should naturally have been led to exclaim, what adequate object can He have in view? Now think about this. What could make Him do this? What could draw Him out? It must be something absolutely spectacular for Him to do all this. What motive can be sufficiently powerful to induce such a being to make sacrifices so great, to encounter suffering so exquisite? This question an apostle has partially answered. He has informed us that Jesus Christ endured the cross and despised the shame for the sake of the joy set before Him. In what this joy consisted, we may learn from the chapter before us, and especially from our text. It is here predicted that He shall see the travail of His soul, that is, of the fruits or effects of His suffering, and be satisfied. In the context, we are informed that these fruits will be, what these fruits will be. He shall justify many. He shall see His seed, and the pleasure of the Lord shall prosper in His hand. The joy set before Him, for the sake of which He endured the cross and despised the shame, was then the joy which would result from seeing His Father glorified and sinners saved, in consequence of His incarnation, suffering, and death. Now, I want us just to stop here for a moment. You should rejoice when a sinner is saved. Not simply for the love you have for the sinner, not simply for the delight you now see in the sinner's life, but for the delight in the heart of Christ. Because it brings delight to Him. This our text declares, he shall see, and the sight will satisfy him while contemplating it. Now, while contemplating it, he will feel that he is amply rewarded for all his sacrifices, toils, and sufferings. He's contemplating this. I mean, the mere fact that the church would even be an afterthought is more than what we can even think. I mean, that he would even think. I mean, I think of maybe some of the most famous people in the world. You know, that, for example, the President of the United States, he doesn't even know my name. I'm not even an afterthought. Or some great preacher today. Well, he doesn't even know my name. I mean, even if, you know, I see a lot of, they seem to be young men excited about being able to drop, you know, John Piper's name. I know John Piper. I know R.C. Sproul, or, you know, John MacArthur and I. We're like this. You know, they would love to be able to. I was with a young guy here recently who kept referring to John Piper as well. You know, John and I were talking. And being able to drop that name, you know. I mean, you get excited if you think that person even knows who I am. But now Christ, Payson is saying, is contemplating His church. He's thinking about her. He's delighting in seeing her, delighting in blessing her. That is amazing. That I would even enter into His mind is amazing. But to think that He actually thinks and contemplates us. He will feel he is amply rewarded for all his sacrifices, toils, and sufferings. He's not like the king of Tyre, remember? Produced all the lumber and everything for Solomon, and then Solomon gave him a few scroungy cities. He wasn't very happy for all his labor. He was kind of put out there for a while. What's this you've given me? These for all the labor? Christ isn't that way. Christ isn't that way with us. He delights. He considers the church to be ample reward. Ample reward. Years ago, there was a thing that most of you probably weren't even born, called the dating game, in which there were three guys sitting on a chair, and then there was a wall, and on the other side was a young lady who would ask the guys questions. You know, and it seemed like so often the girl would pick the ugliest, just, I mean, you know, pretty pitiful guy. And then the other two guys would look like Adonis, you know. They were just absolutely just these handsome, you know, guys, intelligent and debonair and all this stuff. And when she would make her decision, then first of all, the first two guys she didn't pick would walk around the wall, and she was like, oh. And then the cara de sapo is what we say in Spanish, the toad-faced guy. You know, would walk around the corner and you'd see the girl just smiling in anticipation. You felt so sorry for this guy. He had to know. You know, because he'd come around the wall and she'd just go, you just see her face change. That's not the way Christ is going to be. For the first time in your life, someone's going to see you for the first time and not be disappointed. You ought to be very happy about that. And it is going to take some serious transformation for that to go on, I can assure you. But you ought to be full of joy. There are so many places you would not be well received. So many places you can't go. But for the King of Glory to point past the great ones of this earth and look at you and point and say, this one was born in Zion. Let him come forth. Now that is what you want to be waiting for. Now this is the part I want to get to in Payson. This has helped me a great deal, especially when modern media wants to make the church look like a tiny group of cultish, sectarian fundamentalists who are isolated from the rest of the world and meaningless. Look what Payson says. Already has our Redeemer seen much of the fruit of his sufferings. Our once barren world, watered by his tears and his blood, has already produced a large harvest of righteousness and salvation. Again, you take Christianity, true Christianity, and you take out from every country the people that God has redeemed through his Son. You bring them all together in one place today, you've got the biggest thing going on this planet. This is not some little isolated thing. I don't ever want any of you to have some sort of martyrdom complex in a ministry, that you're just this only little flame that exists on the planet and everybody else has abandoned the Lord, the Elijah complex. Everybody else has bowed their knee to Baal and it's you and your little group. No, my friend, it is not. Christ died for a bigger group than this. It is a glorious thing. His cross, like Aaron's rod, has budded and blossomed and begun to bear precious, incorruptible fruit. Oh, I love that. I love that. From his cross sprang all the religious knowledge, all the real goodness, all the true happiness which has existed among mortals since the fall. That is true, and it's being denied. And the only way to deny it is to do what? Revise history. If it was not for Christianity, every advance has been due to Christ and what He did on that tree. Now see, this is where the devil has worked through history and will continue to work. What does he do? I'll give you an example. The many, many years of the reign